Hi guys, I'm Sally with OwlCrate Jr. and I'm here today with a book haul of 13 brand new books that came out in January 2020. It's a really fun mix of contemporary and fantasy and sci-fi and a little bit of historical fiction, so let's jump right in and I'll tell you all about them. The first one is A Girl, a Raccoon, and the Midnight Moon by Karen Romano Young. I'm very intrigued by this one because I have no idea how the raccoon fits into the story, but our main character is 11-year-old Pearl. She was, I could think, quite literally born in the library. Her mom runs the library in her small town. And one day the head of the stone statue that lives outside of the library, who is of Edna St. Vincent Millay, who is a famous poet, the head goes missing. And Pearl is distraught and sets out to solve the mystery of who took it and where it went. It has a book list in the back of all of the books referenced, and there are lots of like footnotes and illustrations and literary goodies sprinkled throughout this one, and it sounds like a blast. Next we have Clean Getaway by Nick Stone. Nick Stone is the author of Dear Martin and several other YA books, I believe. Our main character in this one is Scoob, and his grandma pulls up in a Winnebago one day and says, "Get in, we're going for a road trip." And she has her green book, which is something that I didn't know about, and as I was researching this, realized that that must be what the movie Green Book is also centered around. But it is a sort of an ever-evolving, or not an ever-evolving book, but a book that came out in the 30s or 40s in the United States and continued to evolve over the next few decades. And it was basically like a road guide for African Americans of friendly places where they would not be discriminated against, so restaurants and hotels and many other places that you would want to stop at on a cross-country trip. That is what the Green Book is a document of. So his grandma still has her original copy, and they use it as their guide on this road trip. It sounds fantastic. It sounds like a really good sort of primer on civil rights, which is very cool. And yeah, I think I might actually start this one tonight. I'm between books right now, and this one has been on my list for ages. Next, we have Josie Bloom and the Emergency of Life by Susan Hill Long. This one is set in the 70s. Our main character is Josie, and she is an orphan who lives with her grandpa, and her grandpa is starting to show signs that he may be losing it a little bit. He's been hiding money around the house in weird places, and bills are not being paid, and his memory is slipping. So it's up to Josie to sort of pick up the slack and learn all of these very grown-up things, like how and where to pay bills. Despite that somewhat heavy-sounding description, it has been described as hilarious and heartwarming, and it sounds like a really great family story. Next up is a new one on the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, and that is Race to the Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This all centers around Navajo mythology, and it's a very cool story. Our main character, Njoni, can see monsters where other people cannot. And it turns out that the hotshot new guys who were trying to like buy out his, or recruit her father rather, for a new job, are bad men and monsters, and they kidnap her father. So it is up to her and her brother and her best friend to go and rescue him, with the help of a spider woman who lives out in the desert and is sort of like the keeper of a lot of Navajo secrets and things like that. I have read this one, and admittedly the writing is not my favorite, but the story itself is so cool, and it is amazing to see Indigenous stories at the forefront of a story written by an Indigenous author. There's so many things that I didn't know about, stories that I had never heard of, and it's got like a glossary and pronunciation guide to all of these Navajo terms, which was great. It was definitely like a thrilling adventure. They get into all kinds of dangerous situations. You should check this one out. Next, we have Nessie Quest by Melissa Savage. I love this cover so much. Our main character is Ada, who, against her wishes, is spending the summer in Scotland with her family. She would much rather be at Disneyland. But she has no say in the matter, so she's spending all of the summer in Scotland. So once she gets to Scotland, she meets another American kid who is there for the summer named Dax, and a man named Hamish, who is the captain of the Nessie Quest tour boat. And so it becomes their mission to find Nessie, the Loch Ness monster. Sounds like a very fun summer adventure friendship story. Next, we have a sci-fi pick, Midnight on Strange Street by K.E. Ormsby. I think this one might be a little bit older. It might be like 10 to 14 instead of 8 to 12. But I will let you be the judge of that. It is a sci-fi... I'm going to do a bad job of explaining this. I'm terrible at explaining sci-fi. But basically, it is set in a near-future Texas. And there has been a discovery of some sort of substance called like the G compound, or like they call it glow. And I have no idea what it does, but the story is framed around it. And these 4 kids who have discovered that they are telepathic and telekinetic, I believe, but they can communicate within each other's thoughts. And then they also start picking up messages from aliens that the Earth may be in trouble. And then on top of that, there's also like cool futuristic skateboard competitions and stuff. It sounds like there's a lot going on, but it also sounds like a blast. Next up, we have Sunnyside Plaza by Scott Simon. This one is middle grade, but the main character is actually 19 years old. She lives at Sunnyside Plaza, which is like a community home for adults with developmental disabilities. She works in the kitchen, and she's got this like awesome community of people around her. But one day, one of the other residents unexpectedly dies. 2 detectives come in to investigate what happened, and she ends up helping them figure out what happened. And it sounds like perhaps there is somebody working in the home that should not be trusted. It's been getting amazing reviews. It sounds just like funny and heartwarming and like a great depiction of developmental disabilities. It has been compared to Wonder and 3 Times Lucky, and it sounds great. Next, we have a historical fiction graphic novel that is Catherine's War by Julia Billet and Claire Fauvel. This is set in France in 1942, and our main character, Rachel, has to become Catherine to evade the Nazis, basically. She and her family are Jewish, but in order to survive, they have to change their names and go into hiding. I really love the illustrations in it. I don't know if the finished copy is also in black and white, or if they're color in the one that you will find in the bookstore, but I just think that they are so expressive and full of life, and I love a graphic novel, particularly to bring to life historical events. Next up, we have the Mystwick School of Musicraft by Jessica Khoury. This is a fantasy story set in a world where playing music, not taped music, but actual like live music, is where all of the world's magic comes from. So the Mystwick School of Musicraft is where students, very select students, get to go and hone their crafts. So our main character, Amelia, auditions for the school and then kind of flubs the audition, but still gets a letter of acceptance. But then when she gets there, it turns out that there's been a bit of a mix-up, and it wasn't her that was supposed to get the invitation. She fights for this position and manages to be able to stay there. But it kind of seems like somebody is trying to undermine her and get her kicked out. I can tell you that this one borrows like heavily from the Harry Potter formula, but it's okay. It's just like so much fun. Magic and music and fun characters, and quite a few illustrations sprinkled in there as well. It's a lot of fun. Next we have Starfell, Willow Moss and the Lost Day by Dominic Valente. Our main character, Willow Moss, her form of magic is being able to find lost things. But one day, the witch who lives out in the forest comes to her and says that she needs help finding a lost day. An entire day has gone missing, and unless they can track it down, sort of the safety of their whole town is in jeopardy. It sounds like such a fun concept. It's obviously a different plot, but it made me think of Tuesdays at the Castle by Jessica Day George when I first heard of it, where every Tuesday the castle that they live in completely rearranges all the staircases and you don't know what its next configuration is going to be. Anyways, that's a different story, but it made me think of this. It just sounds absolutely delightful, and it's been getting great reviews. Next, we have another one that's for a slightly older audience, probably about the 10 to 14 again. But that is When You Trap a Tiger by Ty Keller. Our main character and her sister and her mom move in with their grandma because she is getting older and is a bit sick. So they've moved in with her, and she has always told them all of these beautiful stories, many of which are from Korean mythology, Korean folklore. One in particular, or one sort of element in particular, is that the Korean version of Once Upon a Time is long, long ago when Tiger walked like man, which is beautiful. So tigers play heavily into all of these stories that her grandmother tells. And soon after they move into the house, she actually begins to see this magical tiger. And it might not just be a figment of her imagination, but she strikes a deal with the tiger that in exchange for doing a favor that he asks that is connected to her grandmother's stories, he will make sure that she gets better, basically, that she won't die. But it turns out that the tigers are tricky to deal with, and it is not the deal that she signed on for. I have a feeling that this will be like a big award winner this year. It's already been getting tons of buzz by like all of the libraries and book lists and sort of everybody who is in the know for these sort of things. So definitely check this one out. Yeah, it is a great addition to any book list, I would say. And finally, we have Go With the Flow by Lily Williams and Karen Schneemann. This is another middle grade graphic novel. It's actually set in high school, so the main characters I think are about 15, but it is a great one for middle grade. We've got 4 main characters, one of whom is brand new at this middle school, and then 3 long-time good friends who sort of take her under their wing when she comes to this new school. So on her first day of school, the new girl has an embarrassing episode at school about her period. And the other 3 are very quick to kind of be like, it's fine, just stick with us, you're fine. But through this incident, they realize that their school doesn't have none of the pad or tampon machines in their bathrooms are stocked, and not even at the nurse's office. So they kind of make it their crusade to change this. These are products that 50% of the school needs, and they should have easy access to them. So it becomes a protest, and the school is not receptive, but they keep at it. Yeah, it's great. And the whole thing is duotone in various shades of red and black and white. It's great. It's definitely, like I said, the characters are a little bit older, but it's like such an approachable intro, I think, for younger girls who are just entering that period of life. So there you go, 13 new titles to add to your list. Like I said, these ones all came out in January 2020, so you can go get them at your library or your local bookstore now and add them to your book list, your TBR piles. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more bookish videos every week. Happy reading, and thanks for being awesome. Bye!